Hello, good evening and welcome to this year's question time. We know that this year it's quite different. Usually we'd be on campus, we'd be in a meeting room, you'd have the chance to come along and ask questions in person. This year, because of COVID, obviously it's all digital only. You'll know that all of our candidates this year are campaigning digitally only as well. So you won't see loads of posters across campus as normal. They won't be giving you flyers or trying to give you, free sweets or anything like that. That's just to ensure that we're nice and safe and, ensuring that the candidates and yourself are safe as well. But this is a great space where you're going to be able to get your questions answered by the candidates. So I'll just encourage you to chat in the comments, ask any questions that you might have throughout the evening. Just quickly before we get started, I'll run through the running order for this evening. So we're starting with the candidates for the Presidents of the Students' Union. Then at 6:30, we're going to go live with the candidates for President of Activities. At 7, we're going to have the candidates for the President of Inclusivity and Diversity. Then at 7:30, we've got President of Sport candidates. And finally at 8, we've got the candidates for President of Education. So you're very welcome to stay for the whole night, or if you just want to come and dip in and out for the evening, that's absolutely fine. We're glad to see you all. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our wonderful 2 candidates for the President of the Students' Union. How it's going to work, each of them are going to give an opening statement before we then ask some questions of each of them. They've got up to a minute to answer each question as well, just to make it fair as well. And I will be, if you see me giving a little wave, that's just me giving them a 5-second warning, so just so that they don't go over time. So without further ado, firstly, Phoebe Bastiani, would you give your opening statement, please?
Thanks, Nicole. Hello, I'm Phoebe. I'm your current president of the SU, and I'm running again to represent you next year because I've absolutely loved doing this role this year, but I believe I have so much more to give. For this coming year, the president roles have more clarity than ever with brand new standing orders. So essentially, these are job descriptions that state what we have to do in this role. And my role in particular, which has always been incredibly broad, has now got a really clear remit of its own, including a focus on sustainability, mental health and community. And these are 3 things that are really at the core of my re-election campaign. I've also used your responses to our regular surveys to identify what other things you really want me to focus on, one of which is about making your loan go further. So I would address this through additional funding support for students on placements project that me, Sean and Ellis have started working on this year, which would give all students a fair chance to take part in sports and societies, and all of the things that we know really enhance your experience. If elected, I would focus on continuing the work from this year around safety and support and sustainability through the lens of creating an inclusive community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. A minute's not that long, is it? Okay, over to Anu Manjanja, who is now going to give his opening statement.
Hi everyone, my name is Anna and I'm running to be your next Students' Union President. So I've spent the last 4 years of my degree, really finding out what the union is about, really volunteering in different aspects of the union. And now I want to run for a position. And some of the great things I want to do, I want to really build on the great work that has been done over the last few years by the presidents and by everyone in the organization, and take us from strength to strength. I have 3 points in my manifesto. These are safety and support, employability and engagement. I really believe that the union has such great potential and already some great things that are coming out, and such great things. And I think I am the person to really help make that happen. I want to give each of our students really a chance to become the best they can be, and really let the university experience develop and grow. Of course, this last year has been challenging and difficult for many students.
Thank you. I feel so cruel cutting you both off, but it's just to make sure that we're not here for too long, Okay, thank you very much, both of you, for giving your opening statements. We're now going to go into some questions. Aidan, can you show the first question, please? Why do you think students should elect you to represent them? And we're going to start with Anno this time. Okay, so over to Anno.
So, in terms of representation, I have experience in representing students. Prior to this year, I was the BAME officer, where I was representing students, of course, in different areas, and I was given many opportunities to represent students, even to the university, sitting on various different working groups, and as well as the union as well. As well as that, I'm currently elected as a student trustee, bringing students' thoughts and opinions to the board of trustees. And I think so representing students is something that I am used to. But beyond that as well, I think I bring an energy to the role. I'll bring an energy to that aspects of the role. You know, representing you, being a fair and honest leader who represents your views, who's able to get a wide range of opinions and views. And I think really listening is one of my strong suits, if I would say so myself, being able to listen and effectively represent students. So
Thank you. Thank you, that's great. Okay, and over to Phoebe to answer the same question. Why do you think students should elect you to represent them?
Yeah, so I feel like the obvious answer to that is I already do it, and that is probably a massive part of what my answer will be. And I think, you know, doing this job for a year goes much like a minute, very, very, very quickly. And I've learned so much in this time, but there are so many things still to do and so many things that maybe had to be put on the back burner because of COVID and because I knew that student priorities had changed, obviously, with lockdown. But there are so many more things that I want to work on and so many things that I really want to see through that I've either started or that I've kind of started to lay the groundwork for. So I think that's definitely a reason for people to vote for me. But as well as that experience from this last year, I already came into this job with 4 years of being at Hull, taking part in various societies and sports teams, loads of volunteering projects, setting up different things, being president of societies. And I think that all of that experience just meant that I had a really good idea of how it all worked. And now obviously I just have an even better idea. So I feel like I'm the clear choice.
Thank you very much. Anybody watching, you can tell we're just kind of tweaking how we make sure that we warn the candidates that their time's running over because they couldn't see me before. Can we have the next question up, please, Aidan? Okay, so this is along the same lines, unsurprisingly. Students want to know how you're going to represent them. So how would you ensure that you represent students? This time we'll go to Phoebe first. So over to you, Phoebe.
Yeah, so obviously there's lots of different ways that you guys can get in touch with us through the regular pool surveys that we put out. So you've probably answered these before if you've been here, particularly if you've been here for more than 1 year. And that always gives us a really good idea of what students want. But I think obviously the most important thing is just actually listening to students and responding to them when they talk to you. You get loads of messages through your inbox and loads of emails. So actually just really taking note of that and taking that on board is massively important. And I really want to make sure that even though this year it has all been online, and I will continue to have a really virtual presence for people who don't want to return in person or don't feel safe to, but I also really want to see the return of some things that were really great. So just being out there on the ground, doing things like chocolate and chat where people can come and talk to you about their issues and you can actually just speak to students in person, I think would definitely be a main way that I would ensure I actually represent what students really want.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Classic, doing it live in front of everybody as well. Thank you, Phoebe, for your answer. Over to Anno now to answer the same question. How would you ensure that you represent students?
Thank you. So I think quite similar to what Phoebe said, it's those similar kind of things. But I think, you know, one of the great things I think that happened pre-pandemic was this kind of going outside of the HU building, Student Central, and kind of extending our outreach beyond that. And I think that's something that I would continue working on doing if elected. Of course, the pandemic has, like Phoebe said, forced us to do everything virtually. But I think seeing a good mixture of those two, as well as I think it's providing students more opportunities to express consciously, making those kind of knowing what their decisions are actually, what kind of their voices, what kind of their opinions are actually changing, what kind of changes they're making. I think having that conscious step as well. I think listening to students is kind of the brunt of this role. You're here because of the students. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I remembered to unmute that time. Okay, on to the next question. Which I'm not sure if it's going to arrive on the screen or not. If not, I'll just ask you verbally and you can answer, and then hopefully it'll arrive afterwards, and we'll ensure that it does get shared for people. Okay. The President of the Students' Union is the lead representative on welfare issues such as cost of living and housing. How will you make sure that students are well represented in this area? I'll repeat it because it's quite a long one. The President of the Students' Union is the lead representative on welfare issues such as cost of living and housing. How will you make sure that students are well represented in this area? And if we can go to Anno firstly to answer this one. Thank you.
I think this is a very important point. So obviously these are issues that students face on a regular basis, and I think in terms of representing students in this light, it's about okay, I just saw the question now. In terms of representing students in this particular area, I think it's very, very clear, like we answered in the last question, to be able to respond well to the voices that students are raising. And I think that's by giving students the right forums to display their opinions, as well as, and I think by creating those opportunities that already exist, it might be just an issue of sharing those kind of places as soon as a student gets on campus, that this is where you go when you have these kind of issues. I think that should really help. But I definitely think that these are big issues in terms of cost of living, and I know work was started on these particular areas, but I think we can do so much more going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Anno. And the same question to Phoebe, please.
Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, so like Anna said, a lot of work has been starting around this over the last couple of years. One thing that I've put in my manifesto is, and I briefly mentioned in my opening statement, was about student credits. So this is something that I would like to see kind of building on the work that Isabel did around printing credits, if anybody remembers that. So obviously you have obviously money on your card at the minute that you can use for printing. I would like to be able to see all students have kind of a startup fund every year so that they can pay memberships, pay for kit, join societies and sports teams, get involved in different activities, whether that be Give It a Go events or even end of year ball tickets, because we know that there is definitely money for students is definitely the main issue that we see coming up again and again. So so I think that would massively help, but also continuing that work with landlords and also with the university, who is also a massive landlord for all first year students pretty much, to kind of improve that cost there as well.
Thank you. Okay, next question, magical people who put the question up. Part of the role is highlighting the successes of individuals and groups of students. How will you work with the President team to make sure all HUSU volunteers are celebrated? Apologies, I've missed a word off there. I'll say that again. Part of the role is highlighting the successes of individuals and groups of students. How will you work with the president team to make sure all HUSU volunteers are celebrated? And we'll go to Phoebe first of all.
Yeah, so obviously all the normal ways that we celebrate the work that volunteers do is through kind of trophy prayers and society awards and HUSU awards every year. Obviously this year that's been a little bit different, and it's all been kind of online and coming up now. But I think there is definitely a lot more to be done there, and I think particularly with the kind of incredible example that particularly sports teams and societies have set this last year, and kind of their tenacity even through COVID to make sure that they've still got that community going really strong. But I think I would really like to see more promotion of their work as well. So rather than it just being through award ceremonies that are just for them, I think you really kind of utilise our student media. So Torch are obviously running this tonight, Jam Radio and Hull Fire, to really kind of make sure that all students are really aware of what these student volunteers are doing. So even just simple things like putting it on the TV screens in Sank, I think would be a massive thing, just to really showcase that work that they're doing.
Thank you. Over to Anno.
Thank you. So I think this is a really important question and important point. This year I've been president of the Law Society, and I think there's some great work that we've done, and as volunteers, and of course, like Phoebe mentioned about the society awards and trophy prize and things like that. So a couple of years ago, I was on the society's executive committee, so we were kind of working at planning for the society awards and kind of things we wanted to see there. So I think making those kind of things bigger and better, and kind of working in that kind of way. I think as well, highlighting the great work that's being done in these kind of committees. The great work. If you think about all the wonderful work that happened throughout the pandemic, everything that was going on, really inspirational stuff. Sometimes I look at my community and I'm like, some amazing things go on in spite of everything, working to help students. I think it's really important to celebrate them. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just say, would either of you like to say anything more on that point? Because I appreciate that I'm cutting you off in order to keep to time. Did either of you want to say anything else on that question? No? Okay, we'll move on to the next one. The environment and sustainability are high on the agenda for both the university and union. What will you do to ensure that we make significant progress towards becoming a carbon neutral campus? The environment and sustainability are high on the agenda for both the university and union. What will you do to ensure that we make significant progress towards becoming a carbon neutral campus? If we can start with Anno for that one, please.
Thank you. I think this is a really good point. I keep saying that, but these are very good questions. So I think in terms of this one, in terms of the environment and sustainability, an important aspect, an important point. I remember in my role as a trustee, these are things that we've discussed severally about the union and what kind of things we want to see. I think this is working in order to make significant progress, like has been, but even more going into the future. There has to be two aspects. So I think number one, holding the university to account to the promises they made in working to the work that they're making as well. But also as an organisation, making sure that we are also matching up to the same kind of things as well. And I think as well, working together with the university to see the kind of things that we can work together with, we can do together. I think not forgetting to kind of hold them to account and making sure that we keep to the promises. But I think there's little things we can all do. Thank you.
Thank you. To Phoebe.
Thanks, Nicole. Big question and massively important, a huge part of manifesto and a massive part of the amount of work that I've done this year, but definitely something I want to focus on more next year, hopefully coming into COVID recovery. Sustainability training is one thing that I've started working on this year with the university. As part of this role, you get to be on a sustainability board with some really kind of dedicated members of the university, and obviously we have loads of experts as well in kind of green energy and and carbon emissions and various different things. So it's really great to work with them. And that'll be available to all students and staff from September, but it would be really good to expand on that a little bit more. I also want to implement green ambassadors, which will basically be students who can then talk to other students and kind of encourage them and kind of tell them what they could be doing, little things that they could be doing to really help. And also reducing food waste and single-use plastic waste, particularly in Student Central, so in Sank and Eats and Asylum, and also making sure that we've got recycling bins everywhere on campus, and finishing my Salmon Grove Wildlife Reserve.
Thank you very much. Thank you both for answering all of those questions in a very tight timescale, I appreciate. We're now going to move to closing statements. So again, you've got a minute to give a closing statement, and we'll start with Phoebe.
Thanks. I really believe that I'm the best person for the job. I have the experience not just from this year, but from probably too many years of taking part in societies and sports teams and countless volunteering projects. And I am really passionate about making change and making things right for you, even when things get difficult. So vote for Phoebe, always putting you first.
Thank you very much, Phoebe. And over to Anno to give your closing statement too, please.
Hi guys. So I believe I should be your next president of the Students' Union. Like I said at the beginning, I've worked and volunteered in various aspects of the union. I've worked and done so much over the last couple of years at university and really enjoyed myself. I arrived at university a very shy and timid person, so something like this would have been completely out of my reach. And this is just one evidence of how being involved in the union and the work that happens in the USU really has helped me come out my shell. And I really want to give other students opportunities to do that. I want to represent students, and I want to make your university experience overall so much better. I believe I'm the best person to do that. So if you can vote me for the next student union president, thank you.
Thank you, Anno. And thank you to both of our candidates for the President of the Students' Union for taking the time to share some of your ideas, your manifesto aims and answers to some of our students' questions there. Keep an eye out for Phoebe and Anno. They're campaigning online now. I'm sure you'll find them right across different social media channels. Have a look at what they've got to say. Ask them questions if you've got other stuff that you want to find out about what they're running on. I'm sure they'll be really happy to talk to you. And as a reminder, if anyone is leaving us at this point, you can vote for who you want to be President of Students' Union from 9 o'clock this evening. Just by going onto our website, hulluniunion.com/vote now. That opens at 9 p.m. after we've closed our question time event. But for now, thank you very much to Phoebe and Anno. We're just going to take a couple of moments break, and then we'll be coming back with the next one, which is President of Activities. So thank you to Phoebe and Anno. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next section of Question Time. We're now joined by Huey and Ellis, our two candidates for President of Activities. So for anyone who's only just joined us, please do comment if you've got any questions that you'd like us to ask our two candidates. We're basically going to run through a few questions. Each of them has a minute to give an opening statement and then a minute each to answer the questions as we go through them. So without further ado, let's get cracking with your opening statements. So first of all, let's go with Huey. You have 1 minute to introduce yourself and give your opening statement, please.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Huey and I'm running to be your next President of Activities. Throughout my time in Hull, I've been involved in volunteering at every level in the activity zone, from being a Society Treasurer to a member of the SEC and Society's Mentor, Chair of the Activity Zone and Chair of the Raising and Giving Committee. I've also represented students at the highest level as a Student Trustee of our Students' Union. Doing all these roles has continued to increase my passion for representing my peers, and the experience I've gained means that I'm confident that I'll be able to do so effectively. First and foremost, the job of a president is to be a voice for students, and in the case of the President of Activities, a voice for all student groups. If I'm elected, my priorities will be firmly dictated by students. A good leader is one who listens to others and acts on what they say. Some of my priorities will be making it easier for committee members to set up groups and run events by streamlining the paperwork process and reducing the bureaucracy, and supporting and reviving groups that have struggled due to the pandemic by securing funding for them to put together a calendar of society events to bring culture back to our campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Huey. And now over to Ellis to give your opening statement, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Ellis Leonard and I am your current President of Activities, and again I am running and I'm asking you to vote me again #1 for President of Activities. I've worked very hard this year, and even despite all the problems that have arose through the pandemic, I've made sure to change my priorities to demand what these students want. So when it came to things like security on campus and was having issues, myself and Phoebe were the first ones up to fight with the university to get meetings together. So I've spent my year making sure what a President of Activities looks like in a year when there are no activities, from supporting you in the beginning in September to making sure that when we're in a third lockdown, we are making sure that we're publicising things and we're fighting for things ready for the coming year. So looking at a Societies Fund, which is a proposal I've already put together. And there's loads of things that I've worked on that just I'm making sure that they are what the students want at the time. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you both of you for your opening statements. We're now going to move into asking questions of each of you. As I said earlier, if anyone wants to submit questions while we're going through the event, please do. If we don't manage to answer your question during the event, we will ask the candidates so that they can get back to you or publish it on their social media to be able to answer your questions. So let's get going with the first question. Why do you think students should elect you to represent them? And we will start with Ellis on this one, please.
So I think it's quite easy why I think students should vote for me to represent them. I'm already currently in the role, and fighting for societies is something that I'm very Fighting for societies and fighting for student groups is something that I'm currently doing. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about. It's something that I have made sure to be doing every step of the way, but it goes beyond that. An activities president has a lot more under the role than you might think. It isn't just societies. We have student-led volunteering, we have student media. Employability is now a part of the job role. So it's making sure that we are looking at everything that belongs to activities and making sure that you've got someone who is there, loud and ready to fight for you. So that is something I'm doing, because if you've ever listened to me, I am loud and I will shout for it. And I'm making sure that we are there and we're out there and making sure that student groups aren't lost, especially with the pandemic and the possibility of post-pandemic recovery could be a struggle.
Okay, thank you for that, Ellis. And now the same question to Huey.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I think for representation, the most important thing is that I'm listening to you. So I'm listening to all student groups and what they need and what their thoughts are. And I've been doing that for the last sort of 3-4 years I've been in Hull. I've been an SEC member helping societies grow and develop. I've been the chair of the rag raising and giving committee, so helping societies to fundraise and to put on fundraisers and organise their events. So I know what societies want and what they need, and I also know that their wants and needs develop over time, so they have to be continuously listened to and continuously engaged with. I think I'm the perfect person to do that, because I've spent so much of my time and effort putting into this in a volunteering capacity, and now I just really want to be able to do it as a full-time job.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next question. Students have reported high levels of loneliness and isolation during the pandemic. How will you ensure that students make connections and feel part of a community next year? Students have reported high levels of loneliness and isolation during the pandemic. How will you ensure that students make connections and feel part of a community next year? And that question goes to Huey, first of all, please.
Yeah. So one of my main manifesto points is bringing the culture and the community back to our campus. Obviously, we've all had a really, really troubling year. Societies haven't been able to get together. Student groups of all sorts haven't been able to meet and really flourish. So my number one priority will be sort of revitalising student groups, and that will be through numerous methods, whether it's getting student groups over campus more during open days and just during normal term time as well, and also securing funding for groups that have struggled, so that they can create this culture and community by bringing people in and really driving recruitment, which will hopefully help people who are looking for friends, looking for activities to do, and hopefully stop people from feeling as lonely.
Okay, thank you, Huey. Same question to Ellis.
So I have 3 ways with this: funding, publicity, and academic societies. So with my Societies Fund proposal, which is to bring the activity zone more in line with the sports zone in the way that they get funding from the union, I have put a proposal for more funding, so that would be used for post-pandemic recovery. So that could be used for societies to get more publicity for themselves. Publicity, I would be making sure to publicise events. I've been doing that all year. Anyone who shares anything with me, sends anything to me, I share it all the time. I'm always down for that. I love you guys. And the academic societies piece is the automatic enrolment, which I'm working towards. So with that would automatically bring students into a student group that they could take part in. So I know that sometimes societies can be quite intimidating, and it can be quite difficult to find somewhere to go. But with the automatic enrolment, it would be bringing students with the same interest, because they're doing the same courses together, and the opportunities are just automatically there. You just have to take them up. So that would be my main 3.
Thank you. Thank you both for answering that question. Okay, on to the next one. How will you increase engagement with student volunteering opportunities and links with the local community? How will you increase engagement with student volunteering opportunities and links with the local community? Ellis.
I think this goes with making more connections across the local community. So one of my main manifesto points is bringing in local businesses to campus to make sure that we're not just stuck in the Union building in Student Central anymore, to make sure that once the pandemic is over, we can go out. So my ideas for increasing engagement with student volunteering opportunities is getting together with local councillors, working with MPs. We could work with different charities and local businesses and look at what opportunities are available. We already have some absolutely fantastic student volunteering opportunities in the student-led volunteer projects, but it's about publishing them more. They get funding and they can receive funding. You can have a project and start it. So it'd be being a voice to be able to go to meetings and reach out to the public, send emails, go across the city and just speak to people and see what opportunities we can gain for students and help set up any volunteering projects.
That's great, thank you. And over to you, Huey.
Yeah, so students really are sort of the lifeblood of this city, especially a lot of businesses know that, especially local businesses that are based around the university. So I think when we're talking about engagement with the local community, there's that side where we bring in businesses and we bring in companies to engage with the students, whether that be employment opportunities or volunteering opportunities, or even sort of societies and student groups being able to put performances on and do things like that around the campus, but also around the city. I think would be a really important thing to do. And We don't do it so much this year, and we haven't done it so much in the past, but I think that's something we should be pushing for a lot more. On terms of volunteering, as Ella said, there are loads of opportunities that are already out there. It's just about letting students know about these opportunities and letting them know that they can come and run their volunteering campaigns and just have the funding to do it all. So it's all about getting it out there and approaching students in the way that they're going to engage with.
Thank you. Thanks both. Some great ideas there about how we can work more closely with the local community. Okay, moving on. Why do you think societies are important for students? Now you're both passionate about societies. Here's your chance to demonstrate to the viewing public why you're the person for the job. Okay, over to Huey first.
Yeah, so for me, societies are one of the most important things at university, and that's all student groups really, but societies really, they give students a chance to socialise, they give students a chance to wind down. Yeah, everyone comes to university to do their degree, but societies really are where you make friends and you make connections and you just have a good time. And when people think back to university, they don't think about sitting in the library doing their thesis, they think about the time they spent in societies and student groups with their friends. So yeah, societies are really important for students, and I think they're overlooked a lot of the time, and they have definitely been overlooked in the past. But there's a really strong community in Hull with student societies, and I just want to see it go from strength to strength.
Okay, thank you for that. Same question to you, Ellis.
Oh my God. I think the reason societies are so important is because of the communities that they build. It's not just people coming together with a similar interest. So you've got people who if you really like Disney and Pixar, or like Harry Potter or Doctor Who, it's not just simply that. It is when you're on committees for these, you're developing employability skills, you are developing leadership skills, you are developing so much more than simply just getting together and having fun with your friends. And that's something that I think really needs more support to develop. But you've also got the representation piece. So academic societies are out there, they're liaising with course reps, and if there's problems, they're all having these little conversations between each other. So they come together and really just bond, and it's sort of like the glue that keeps a lot of people together. I know that I might not have finished my degree if it wasn't for societies, and I know for a fact that there are plenty of people like that the reason they stay is because of the connections and the bonds they make. So I think they're so important, especially when it comes to mental health as well.
Thank you. I was just reflecting as you were both talking there, actually. One of my best friends who is still in Hull was a friend that I met in a society all those years ago when I was a student here. So there you go. It really does resonate.
Not too long ago.
We won't talk about how long ago. This is about you, not me. Okay, next question. A commitment to student democracy and representation are key elements for this role. What will you bring to this aspect of the job? I'll just repeat that again. A commitment to student democracy and representation are key elements for this role. What will you bring to this aspect of the job? And that question goes to Ellis, first of all.
What I bring to the role is what I've already been doing this year. I've practically single-handedly completely changed the activities zone from the inside out and the way it operates. So previously, the representation, when I came in, we had part-time officers who weren't elected, but you also had 3 roles that didn't have anything attached to them because of previous presidents changing things. So immediately got to work on union council motions and making sure that those things were changed so that the representation piece is more there. So now all the PTO officers are called representatives, activity zone representatives. So you've got academic society and hobby and interest societies. In terms of democracy, I'm always there at any point for anyone to talk to. So when it comes to societies, councils, I'm always completely open and honest about what I'm currently doing and what I'm working on. And I'm always inviting students to come along and chat to me and making open forums so that if there's anyone who wants to get involved on projects who feel like they might not be invited can come and talk to me.
Thank you. Same question to you, Huey.
Yeah, in terms of student democracy, that's always really been a key sort of point of mine. A couple of years ago, I ran a campaign to sort of keep our student democracy democratic. So it's something that I'm really passionate about. In terms of representation, I mean, there'd be no point in me being here if I wasn't going to sort of represent students as well as I can. For the last 3 years, I've been representing students on a volunteering basis. I've been representing students at the trustee level, and that's sort of really digging into the needs of students and making sure that the entire organisation has the needs of students in the forefront of their minds when they're making decisions. So yeah, I mean, I've been on union council, I've been a chair of the zone before, so democracy and representation really are important to me. And if I get the role, I will make sure they remain top priority.
Okay, thank you very much. And it's at this point that we move to closing statements. That's all the questions that we've had in for you both. So yeah, you each have a minute or up to a minute to give a closing statement to encourage students as to why they should vote for you. And we'll start with you, Huey.
Yeah, firstly, I'd just like to thank everyone for watching at home, and also Torch TV and Marketing for hosting the event. In this election, you've got a choice between two candidates who both have great experience and passion. That being said, I know that with me as your president, I'll be more effective and successful at fighting for students. Many of the issues student groups face are a result of the university not listening to the union and poor communication. The fact that student groups continuously struggle to find spaces and book rooms is unacceptable. And this has to be a collaborative effort with the university, where the president of activities really takes a forward step in forcing progress. Furthermore, the development of the HU app or Husu app is something that has been promised for years, and whether due to the pandemic or research and development, it's not happened really. So this year, I really want to make that a priority. Sort of in the 21st century, where students are using their phones all the time to interact with the world, we should really make that a priority for the whole organisation. And finally, in my roles in the activity zone, it's always been really clear to me that the systems that are in place really hamstring student groups. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And over to Ellis for your closing statement, please.
Firstly, I just want to thank everyone for being involved in everything, and all the students who I've already been able to speak to virtually just in the last couple of days. Like, thank you for all your support and everything. The reason I think you should vote for me for President of Activities is quite simple. I'm that voice that fights for quite a lot of problems. Certain things have been put on the back burner to fight for other issues purely because of the pandemic. But as we're coming out of the pandemic, fingers crossed with the vaccine, then there are priorities that can come more forward. So there are things that I could work on, like university room bookings. We already have systems in place that aren't advertised, and there are things that the university offers that are just sort of like hidden. So they need to be more in the forefront. We need to look at things like society storage and what is offered. There's so many things that I can't quite fit into a minute because my ADHD doesn't allow me. But I just think that I'm very passionate about fighting for your rights and fighting for your problems, and I just want to be president of Activities again.
Thank you both of you. I appreciate that it's challenging doing this not in person and at home on a screen, but thank you. You both did really well with some challenging questions there, as well as the challenging time frame as well. So just as a reminder for everyone watching at home, voting goes live this evening at 9 p.m. If you have made your mind up about who you want to vote for President of Activities, you can log on and vote from this evening until Friday at 5 p.m. So voting's open all week. So you've got plenty of time if you want to get in contact with Huey and Ellis, find out more about their ideas, ask them questions about their manifestos. They're really happy to chat to you. All campaigning is digital, so it will all be via social media, via email, but they'll be really happy to talk to you and try to convince you to vote for them. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you to Huey and Ellis. Round of applause, everybody who's watching back at home. And we'll be back in a few minutes with the next section, which we will be talking to our two candidates for the President of Inclusivity and Diversity. So thanks again to Huey and Ellis, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
and welcome back to everybody who is watching back at home. I'm going to move slightly to the side. I keep noticing it's cutting me off slightly. I'm Nicole Steele. I'm the Student Voice Manager at Hull University Students' Union, and I'm your host tonight for Question Time. We're just about to get cracking now with the two candidates for President of Inclusivity and Diversity, Evie and Holly. So for anyone who's joining us for the first time, each of them has the opportunity to give up to a minute's opening statement to introduce themselves and their ideas to you. We'll then run through a few different questions. Again, they've got up to a minute to answer each of the questions, and then at the end they will give a closing statement. So without further ado, I'm going to invite them both to give their opening statements. If I can ask it when you're not talking, if you could mute yourself as well, just to ensure that it's as clear as possible, that would be great. So first of all, Evie, over to you to give your opening statement.
Thanks, Nicole. So as you might be aware, I'm rerunning. So I've done this job for a year, and after a pandemic, I still want to do it. That's how much I love representing you. So my main points are around education, visibility, inclusivity and empowerment. I want to continue a few of my points from last year, as well as adding on some new ones. And a lot of these have come from students as well. So making blended learning as inclusive and accessible as possible in whatever form it takes the next few months. To continue to meet the needs of and support Black students to help close the Black awarding gap, which increased during the pandemic. Continue to campaign for closed captions and mandatory transcripts, and continue the campaigns against sexual assault and for women's safety, and to improve the reporting and support for those who've experienced harassment, discrimination and hate crime. And I think one thing to consider with these campaigns is that I'd like to think that I've really honoured my manifesto and what I was voted on, which was literally weeks before COVID, but also responded and adapted to COVID as well. Sorry.
Thank you. No, that's all right. A minute's not very long. Over to Holly to give your opening statement, please.
Hi, and Ramadan Mubarak to everyone observing from today. After this incredibly difficult year, what I want to do is empower students, allowing everyone to fully embrace everything university life, their course and the city have to offer. I've got a lot of exciting ideas, so I'll briefly outline just a few. As bereavement, isolation, long COVID, financial insecurity, and rising eating disorders take their devastating toll, I want to make sure that services are equipped to deal with the rise in demand. I believe in linking partners citywide to offer bystander intervention training, create safer routes home. I'll see us align with other progressive student unions by making some consent training mandatory and look at offering home drug testing. I want to see a review of some of our equalities policies led by students who need them most to ensure they are sufficiently clear, robust, and effective. When working in this areas before, that has shown me there's a lot of room for improvement, even in our seemingly most progressive institutions.
Thank you very much. Thank you, both of you, and welcome to the show. So if we can get our first question up, that would be great. Okay, how will you raise the profile of campaigns such as Black History Month, LGBTQ+ History Month and Disability History Month? For anybody watching along who isn't aware, it's a major part of the role of the President of Inclusivity and Diversity to take a lead with awareness raising campaigns and months such as these. If I can pass this question over to Holly first of all, that would be great.
So this is something I did sort of indirectly include in my manifesto. One of the things that really struck me when I went to, say, the Black Lives Matter protest was the power of stories, people who were brave enough to stand on stage and give their testimonies. So what I wanted to do was make stories centre. So include perhaps in newsletters, in things around campus, opportunities for people to actually understand what other students are going through. And this could be, I want celebratory events, but also somber ones, because sometimes these aren't things to be celebrated, although it's also awesome to celebrate what's great about various communities and what is unique to them. So really what I'd do is I'd want every student to be able to tell their story, whether that's in person or online, anonymously, or if they want to be identified. So actually everyone has a chance to listen, to share. And like I said, a combination of online, in-person events that are actually inclusive for everyone.
Thank you, Holly. And the same question to you, Evie.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. It's a good question. So obviously I've already done this, and not only have I done it, I've done it when we've had a mix of in-person activities and when we've had to respond quickly due to a lockdown. And so I've been used to coordinating with students from different student groups to create events and activities. And also I supported Sarah Marie, who's a Disabled Students Rep, to hold the first Disability History Month that we celebrated this year as Students' Union. So I think that's given me quite a lot of experience in actually setting up. And like I say, we responded quite quickly. We had some COVID restrictions that came in that meant we had to change things, but we still managed to have a really good month where loads of students did share their testimonies. So this is something that's already happening, and I'm already used to facilitating and connecting with individual students and the student groups. The other thing that I've done as well is I want to make sure that we don't just confine Liberation to a single month. So sometimes I've focused on stories or launched campaigns within this month, excuse me, but I try to make sure that it's a focus rather than just confining it to that month. So we've launched, for example, this Ends Now campaign, Women's History Month, as well.
Time's up. Thank you. Did either of you want to say anything additional on that? I appreciate it. It's quite a big question for a minute. Yeah, Evie, you can have a little more time if you wish. And
Sorry.
Holly, you'd like a little more time as well.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. So I think part of it this year that I found really good as well is platforming people who have lived experience. So a really good example of that, I think, is in October. Shekinah, who's the Black, Asian, Minority Ethnic Students Rep, she wanted to do a Black Lives Matter protest, and that is something that she has lived experience of, and it was right for her to lead on, and that's why this role is so important, to give people like that, volunteers, the opportunity to do these events of Black History Month. So what I was able to do to support with that, for example, was to get the local Stand Up to Racism group involved, and they did a speech and to try and facilitate it to make it COVID safe. And to make sure that Shekinah really got all the engagement and could help organise it so that she could really focus on the speeches and on making it the best it could be. And so I think that's a really good example, and it's about putting those students first, because they obviously, a lot of the time, they want to celebrate their own lived experience, but giving them the tools to facilitate to do that.
Thank you. Over to Holly.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with the idea that, you know, these things shouldn't be confined to a certain month. Absolutely, I think they do need to be happening all the time. And it is the other thing, of course, is even though we have got these great representatives within the diversity zone, this is why I want to see additional sort of opportunities to reach out to others and to include a lot of consultation with other students, because, say, a Black and ethnic minority student rep can do a lot of good work, but I want to be able to speak to every sort of individual group possible, because they all have very different, even though there may be some things in common, they all have very different shared experiences, so, or not so shared experiences, sorry. So yes, I think absolutely agree with everything, but yes, just the emphasis on, you know, speaking to as many people as possible, and, you know, reaching out to as many groups as possible, and underrepresented groups in particular.
Great, thank you very much. Can we have the next question, please? Okay, the role descriptor highlights the need to build relationships with local, regional and national bodies. How will you go about this? I'll just repeat that one. The role descriptor, for the role that you're going for, obviously, highlights the need to build relationships with local, regional and national bodies. How will you go about this? And this time, if we can start with Evie, please.
Yeah, so I think a really good way to do this is there's an existing community network with the university, which has lots of groups on there for lots of different things. So one of my suggestions through the Black, Asian, Minority Ethnicity mental health campaign was to get more involved with services like Let's Talk, for example, and see how culturally competent and racially aware those services are. Because if we're improving our services and the uni's wellbeing services, we need to make sure that if students are getting referred there as well, that they're also getting a good experience. So that's part of doing it. And those existing groups already exist, and I've already raised these ideas in these groups and started to build these connections. And it's about as well working with local bodies. I've talked about safety, and for example, working with the council on lighting around the streets and things like that. And in terms of national bodies, it's working to make sure that when political events happen that impact these minority groups or marginalised groups, we have sort of a political response, and we work with other student unions, which we've done a lot around COVID specific things this year, and continuing that response for students.
Thank you. Same question to Holly, please.
Yeah, so this is really, really important. I think we try and do everything by ourselves. We're not really going to get anywhere. So I think working with partnerships is very, very important. And I think, and, you know, not just necessarily the first bodies that might come to mind, you know, like local groups that do support people from, say, various ethnic minority backgrounds, etc., but also, you know, with the council, but also with private businesses as well. So part of my nighttime safety sort of agenda, which I'm doing as a campaign separately, but also I'd like to see the university do, is actually bringing in sort of businesses as well, and looking at having bystander intervention training, so their staff know how to deal with incident of harassment or even hate crime, because most people like to think, you know, if that would happen in front of me, of course I'd intervene, but actually, when it does happen, it's a lot more daunting, and you can end up accidentally escalating the incident or making somebody feel worse. So I think working with other places where students might go to for things like that would be a really good move.
Thank you. Do either of you want to say anything additional on that question? Or are you happy to move on? Was that a nod to say happy to move on? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, next question. Part of this role focuses on educational social justice. What does this mean to you? Part of this role focuses on educational social justice. What does this mean to you? And if we can come to Holly first of all this time, please.
So I'm a little, maybe because I haven't done a role like this before, I'm a little confused by this question. Really, it means educating people about social justice or social justice within an educational setting. So I'll try and say both quickly. Within an educational setting, I think making sure people have access to, say, reading lists that reflect all of the different cultures and people who have actually looked at the subject, because it gives a much more, a much better view, much more sort of complete picture. And it's just beneficial to everyone, as well as, you know, making sure these other views and other takes are being heard, and other people who have done good work in these subjects are being celebrated. That's just one example. If we were talking about educating people about social justice, I think eventually it basically comes back to this idea of, you know, letting people know what people are actually experiencing, you know, stories being this really big focus, and, you know, statistics and the like, they can be devastating. But for me personally anyway, I know nothing is quite as powerful as a story. So
Thank you. Thanks. Same question to you, Evie.
Yeah, so I think for me this really touches on things like the awarding gap. So that now is an official part of the inclusivity role standing order to work the President of Education on. And so an example of that is myself and Simeon worked with Catherine Hubbard, who is a researcher in the university, and she found that actually over the past academic year, the awarding gap of Black students has increased, which is a negative thing. So we held a forum, and there's still recommendations that we're working on. They've achieved some of the short-term ones, but we're not happy, and we still want to keep lobbying for them. So for me, that's a massive part of that. And as well, my Black, Asian, minority, ethnicity mental health campaign fits into some of those recommendations. I'd say it's also about being responsive. So obviously, blended learning has brought up some issues that impact different students. So for example, how accessible or how good the closed captioning is on Teams for students who need it. And so I actually did an assessment about this in July, which was consulting with lots of different students about blended learning and how it would impact them. So I'm still lobbying and pushing for this in whatever form that would take in September.
Thank you. Do either of you want to say anything additional on that one? No? Okay, we'll move on.
Can I? Sorry, I raised my hand. Is that all right?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't see. Yeah. No, that's fine. Go on.
So I think the other thing I'd like to say is it's about decolonising the curriculum as well. So one thing that me and Simeon did this year, we've been working together on decolonising the curriculum. And as I've said as well, due to the standing orders changing, that's a much bigger part of this role. And decolonising goes beyond just the diversity of the authors. It's about the subject matter being taught. It's about how adequately people can respond to students from different groups and things like that. So what we actually did is we made sure that it's going to be, we passed a motion on it, and that means that therefore it has to be taken on, and it's more sustainable, decolonising the curriculum. And one of the massive things that me and Samina have done as well is we think that you as a student, you're paying for your course. You should know exactly how it's being decolonised and how it benefits you, and how it's being made more inclusive. So what we've lobbied for this year is to have some real transparent communication to students about what this means to them, and if they can see, for example, a template or a before and after, so they can see what it looks like. So that's really important to me.
Thank you. Holly, would you like to say a few more words on this one? Yep, over to you.
Yes, just sort of something I did include, which I don't know if should connect directly to this, but it's actually about breaking down the barriers as well for students with specific learning difficulty and autism. I think that is really important, and awareness in that area is really important, and that's another thing that does hold students back. And what I found with my condition is actually accessing that help is quite difficult. So even though it might not be, you know, it perhaps isn't the right question to answer it on, but I thought it was just really important I did speak about that, because it is something I really I sort of have direct experience with, and I think is really, really important. So that is something I definitely look into as well.
Thank you. Thank you both. Ready for the next question. The President of Inclusivity and Diversity is the lead for events specifically for our students not studying on the Hull campus. How will you ensure that these students will feel included? So this is something that's new to the standing order for next year, an area of responsibility in recognition that as a union we could improve our offer and our support and services for those students who are distance learners, who are, you know, perhaps studying elsewhere, on placement, etc. So yeah, how will you ensure that these students will feel included if you're elected next year? And I've lost track of who we're starting with. That's really bad. Is it Evie's turn to start? It is, isn't it? It is. Over to you, Evie, to start.
Thanks, Nicole. So yeah, for me, it's really about making sure that a student should be able to have the same access to information, regardless of whether they're on campus, whether they're shielding, whatever the reason is. So I really tried to take this into account when I've been doing all the events this year. So one of the things I've done is on the assessment I mentioned earlier, one of the things was to say that any teaching materials, any social activities taken on by the university or union, they should be accessible to everyone, regardless of their access to campus. So that's something that's in writing that the university committing to, that I can keep lobbying them on. And that's what I've really tried to do in my own event as well, and try to make sure that where possible, there's surveys and open forums, and obviously everything's online everywhere. There's lots of different ways to contribute that information, whether or not you're on campus and how comfortable you feel. And also around the access to technology. If people are accessing us remotely, they will need good access to technology. And that's another one of my manifesto points, is ensuring that people have the right support to do that and know how to do that as well. So that's one of the things.
Thank you, Evie. Same question to you, Holly.
Yeah, so I think, again, yes, of course, access to information, also feeling part of the social network as well, in a sense, and perhaps having sort of what I know that a lot of, a lot of organisations in the city have done to try and improve engagement during COVID, for example, have been sort of more looking at ways of having interactive events, whether that's about information or even entertainment, or, you know, so everyone still feels a part of the community and has the opportunity to interact with other people and find out what's going on with them, and to just, yeah, feel part of that community, you know, with equal access to information and, you know, entertainment, and just that spirit of community and understanding that comes with being part of the community. But obviously, it is a little bit harder if you're not, you know, if you're not in the same place as everyone else. So yes, that around that, there are a lot of ways you can do it now, and this year has been great for finding stuff out like that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, on to our last question for you each now. Why do you think students should elect you to represent them? Nice and short and sharp question, and we'll come to Holly first with that one.
I'll be honest with you, I haven't done this role before. You know, I don't know all the terms, I don't know all the things I would need to do, but I can listen and I can learn, and I have done before. I'm very, very passionate about social justice. I'm a counsellor, and I've led the calls for a more inclusive and discrimination policy, which was actually inspired by a previous whole student union's union president's campaign, Make Diversity Count. And we're currently working on a more inclusive policy to make the council a better employer. I led calls for a, sadly it was rejected, but for a accessibility fund. I can learn, and I'm extremely passionate about it. I've had my own experiences with mental health, and it makes me, very, very aware of how being held back is very horrible. I believe in freedom. I believe in justice, and those values will always be at the forefront of everything I do.
Thank you. Same question to Evie.
Yeah, so I think I've learned to navigate the role in quite rapidly changing circumstances. As I said, I was elected before lockdown happened, and I've learned to both respond to issues that students have brought to me that have been in response to COVID, about blended learning, about the awarding gap, those sorts of things. But I've also learned how to keep the manifesto points I was elected on that are always going to be important and should never be on the back burner, like consent training, which will be made available very, very soon. It's now finished. So I think I've both sort of balanced those things, which are both really, really important. I've also learned how to engage students. We mentioned about students being off campus. That's been a massive experience for me this year. How do we engage people purely online? And I think I've learned really well how to do it. I've even written a whole plan for the presidency for next year on how to engage with students and the ways that we can improve this and do really practical stuff. I've had lots of experience of what's been successful and what hasn't been successful. And I've tried to get student feedback on my own campaigns and my own projects. And I've started lots of projects that I think I'm the right person to continue and carry forwards.
Thank you. I realise that we should have asked that question at the start, and asking it at the end makes it sound like it's just an invitation for your closing statement. Would you both like to make an additional closing statement? Because if you would like to, there is time for you to do so. Yeah, okay, that's grand. Okay, if we can come to you, Evie, first for your closing statement. You have 1 minute.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks for coming tonight. And I think when you're voting, you should vote for somebody with experience, vote for someone with passion, and vote for somebody who, like I said, can balance both the important things due to COVID and the stuff that is always important, like accessibility, like consent, and all these different things that should never be put on the back burner. And I think I've managed to balance both of the responsive things to COVID and also the things on my manifesto. I've also done quite a lot, even in a pandemic. As I've mentioned, consent training will be available very soon, which I've pretty much written from scratch from the feedback from students. I've set up a sexual violence group with Phoebe, celebrated the first Disability History Month, made closed captions a part of standard practice, and got the results and recommendations for Black, Asian, minority, ethnicity, mental health, LGBT mental health. And as well as this, I've written an assessment for blended learning and worked with Simeon and Phoebe to tirelessly respond to students on things like extending library opening hours and responding to the Black awarding gap. So I think if you want to vote for somebody with experience and with a passion to carry on campaigns, vote for me.
Thank you. Thanks, Evie. And over to Holly for your closing statement, please.
I believe I'm arguably a rare combo. I'm a city councillor, I've been an RA, and I served on society committees. I have a lot of relevant experience, but I'm also a fresh face. That's not really why I want to do this, though, or why I think you should vote for me. My time here hasn't been smooth sailing. While I've fought against eating disorders, anxiety and depression, and learned to live with attention deficit disorder, I've been incredibly grateful for the support offered to me, but I believe we can do better, and I think I know how. I want to break down barriers to help. I want to empower people to help each other and support each other. I want us to make the most of our campus and our city, knowing we're united in fighting against harassment, disrespectful attitudes, and hatred, and that we want people to have the freedom to enjoy their university experience as they see fit without the fear of judgment or being held back. A vote for me is a vote for this vision.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you. And a big round of applause, everyone watching at home. It's not easy to put yourself out here in this kind of a way where you're just looking at yourself in a box, answering questions and knowing that you're all either watching live or watching it back later on in the week. So thank you. These are your candidates for the President of Inclusivity and Diversity. Please engage with them on social media if you've got any questions, if you want to find out more. Their manifestos, alongside all candidate manifestos, are on our website. We've got a whole web page with all of the candidates on there, so you can find out more about what they're running on, get in contact with them, and find out more. So thank you everyone who's watched. Thank you to Evie and Holly. We're going to take just a short break now, and then we're going to be back with the candidates for President of Sports. And if you're leaving us now, just a reminder that voting opens at 9 p.m. tonight on our website at hulluniunion.com/vote now. Voting is open till Friday at 5. So you've got all week to make up your mind about which of these fantastic people you want to represent you next year, and, log your vote. So thank you very much, and we will see you in a few minutes. Hello and welcome back, everyone. You are now in the section where we get to meet the candidates for the president of sport. The presidents for the candidate of sport. What am I doing? So yes, we are going to be talking to Sian and Jenny, finding out more about their manifestos, why they're running, why you should vote for them. Just a reminder to anyone who's joining us for the first time, tonight is our question time event. And anyone who wants to watch it back in the future, you'll be able to through YouTube and Facebook on Torch TV's Facebook and on Hull University Union YouTube channel as well. So without further ado, we're going to get cracking. So we're going to open up with opening statements. Going to invite Sian and Jenny. They've got up to a minute to introduce themselves and give an opening statement. We're going to start with Sian. Just bear with me a second. Okay. Yeah, over to you, Sian.
Wonderful. Can you hear me? Just checking. Is that okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful. Hi, I'm Sian and I am rerunning to be your president of sport this year. Obviously, this year hasn't panned out like any of us would have hoped for, and for sports especially, it's been pretty unpredictable. But now sport is coming back in full force and I basically want to do the same. So please consider re-electing me as your president of sport. My manifesto is all online, but the 3 things I want to work on is rebuild, rebrand and reboost sport at Hull. Rebuild traditions and structures of the AU and within sports teams themselves, rebranding the AU as a whole to get away from those negative stereotypes often associated with us, and reboosting financial support, employability support, and carrying on all the work that I've done this year already. I have loved being HUSU's president of sport this year, and I'm so proud of all the hard work that the teams have put in, despite obviously the circumstances. And I would love the chance to rebuild, rebrand, and reboost sport at Hull to help lead the AU teams out of the pandemic.
Thank you. Over to Jenny to give your opening statement, please.
Hello, so I'm Jenny and I'm running for president of sport. I've been at Hull for 5 years now. And I've been a member of both Boat Club and Women's Rugby Union. And I loved sport so much at Hull that I stayed to do a Masters. So this year I've also been the representative for women in sport and I've loved every minute of it. I've worked very closely with Sian as well as with Phoebe and Evie on a lot of things this year, such as the One Hull of a Woman campaign. I've loved representing and promoting women in sport, and now I want to be able to do that for all members of all sports teams, whether they're books or non-books. Big or small. So as president of sport, I'd want to do 3 main things. So I'd want to really focus on back to sport support and building up the sporting community, the promotion of all sports teams and their games, including ones off campus and at the weekend, and increased transparency and communication from the AU exec to members of teams. Vote Jenny for number 1. I'll stop now. Thank you.
Thank you. No, you both did very well to keep it in the minute. So we're now going to run through a few different questions that we're going to ask you each in turn. Again, you've got a minute to answer, but if it feels like you've got a lot more to say on anything, we can give you a bit more time at the end. So yeah, first question, please. Why do you think students should elect you to represent them? And we're going to start with Jenny.
So I think that students should vote for me and elect me because so I've been here for a long time, been here for 5 years. I've been on 2 very, very different teams and I've also been on AU exec this year. So I understand how the AU exec works, how the Students' Union works, how it works with the university. I've worked very closely with Sian, so can provide continuity, but also have some fresh ideas. And enthusiastic, and will go out of my way to help support teams and ensure that we translate the online community spirit we've built so much on this year into an sort of in-person community spirit.
That's great. Thank you, Jenny. And same question to you, Sian.
So I've been in the role for a year now, and I believe I have such unique knowledge of not only HUSU, but obviously the AU and sport in general here at Hull. And I feel like I've got a bit of unfinished business. As many of my friends remind me, I've been at Hull for quite a while now, and since 2015, I've been a part of the AU, whether that be as a fresher, a committee member on AU exec, working with the President of Sport, and then obviously finally President of Sport itself. And I feel like all of these stages have allowed me to see sport from a range of different angles, and obviously being a part of 2 sports teams has also helped with that as well. But I just think that I can give that continuity of leadership through and out of this pandemic, and just kind of help and support those AU teams and sport in general at Hull to really become as strong as it can be, and kind of keep supporting those teams, making them even better than I have been able to do this year.
Thank you. Oh, I just muted myself. That's really helpful, isn't it? Okay, we'll move on to the next question now. Being President of Sport is not just about the AU. It's also about representing student sport beyond the AU. How will you do this? And we will start with Sian.
So this is one of the kind of points of my manifesto. So kind of reboosting sport as a whole at Hull. So for me, obviously, creating more recreational sporting opportunities, because sometimes the big group teams can be a bit daunting for people. So for me, it would be promoting Give It a Goes, the Hull sports sessions that they put on. We've been looking at kind of re-establishing Fabulous and what that means. I also want to look into bringing super teams back, which is a competition that kind of happened in my first year and then didn't kind of continue. So that would be something that I would look to bring back, and that would be just kind of getting a group of friends together and then participating in loads of different sports. And also looking at accommodation competitions. So a lot of other unions do this. So it could be Westfield versus Courtyard, that kind of thing, to just get people involved as well. It's quite intimidating when you put your hand up.
Thank you. Sorry, it's supposed to be a friendly hi, I'm here. And the same question to Jenny.
Hi. So yeah, obviously, sport is about a lot more than just the AU. So I think being in like a city, we kind of have so many different local teams. I think it'd be a missed opportunity if we didn't encourage our AU teams to work with local teams, so they could train with them, have friendlies with them, especially with the sort of return to sport support. I think having some friendlies is going to be with local teams would be really good to introduce teams back into sort of the competitive sort of state of mind without sort of pushing them straight into competitions. With the representative for women in sports stuff I've done this year, I did a survey looking at how women feel in the gym and stuff, and what came out of that is that a lot of women would kind of like the idea of a female gym, so kind of discuss that with Hull Sport, like Sian said, Fabulous, looking at female instructors, and there we go.
Thank you. Would either of you like a little bit more time to talk on this subject?
Apologies, there is an announcement like I anticipated in the library. But
if you want to wait,
yeah, I can wait. Jenny, would you like to speak?
I was just going to say, wait for the announcement to finish so that we can hear you. Okay, go, Sian.
Student sport, obviously, sport is a massive part of it, but I think as well, kind of looking outside the sport as a physical thing. Obviously, this year we had maybe 6 weeks maximum of actual physical sport. So it's looking beyond that and beyond what we can do, like in a physical sense, and look at our successes through charity and fundraising and networking abilities within teams and into AU communications, and then looking at a wider sense of looking at what other unions do to really engage their students in and about sport. So I think it's looking out, as you said, outside of the AU, because sport in the AU is such a massive community. It can only benefit from having those like extra bits coming in as well.
Thank you. Jenny, did you want to say anything else on this point?
I'll just add a little bit. So sort of similar to what Sean just said. So the social side of sports is going to be really important as well. So a lot of students won't have had that sort of same experience, especially people who were freshers last year or who joined a team last year. That sort of social side of things is going to be really, really important to sort of promote and highlight next year. So yeah, just that whole sporting community, but outside of sports as well. So that's me.
Thank you. Right, let's move on to another question and hope that we don't have more library announcements. Sports is a key area that has been affected by COVID over the past year. I know that you're both painfully aware of that fact. How will you support teams to engage members and be successful next year? And if we can go to Jenny first with that one.
Yeah, so this is kind of like essentially my sort of biggest point on my manifesto. So I really want to support committees and teams who will have had a lot of members that haven't played sport. So I really want to focus on recruitment and retention of members. So with the recruitment, really promote the AU, the sports fair, and then retention, I think building the community sporting spirit back up is going to be really important. So encourage all students to come to Wednesday afternoon games, weekend games, off-campus games. I want to introduce intramural weekends throughout the year. So that's going to build relationships between teams and really sort of encourage people to stay within those teams. And I also want to turn Wednesday afternoons into events. Sorry, I can't see if you've got a hand up or not. I can't see anybody else. Okay, yeah.
It's okay.
I thought it might be. Everyone disappeared.
Same question to Sean.
Yeah, so obviously we're going to be coming off an Olympic summer this year, so hopefully that will mean that we're expecting quite a big influx of interest in sport, and obviously after a year of doing practically nothing, really actively pushing that sport can really positively impact your student experience. So I think that's really important. I think getting the support from not only the union but the university as well to have that pre-academic year support, so that that's new students are coming in knowing exactly what we're offering them through the AU, all the sporting opportunities in general at Hull. So I think that's another big thing. I did something this year that was #August, which happened all the way through August, which promoted different teams. Pre-season is another thing that will encourage teams to really engage their members again. With this, okay. This is so hard to do in a minute.
What language was that? Would either of you like to say anything else on that one? Sean, would you like to say anything additional as well, Jenny?
Just to kind of go off what the importance of Welcome Fest as well. Obviously this year we could just about do it. It didn't look as normal, but I think those are the kind of events that would really help engage teams. And then if we're engaging freshers and current students straight off the bat, you're only going to be successful in what is to come. So success is different for every team. That could be increased membership, that could be obviously results on game days and competitions. But if we can promote sport as much as possible through Give It a Go's, taster sessions, social events, like that is only going to benefit the whole AU and sport at Hull in general.
That's great, thank you. Jenny, did you want to say any more words on that one?
Yes, please, just a little bit.
Yep.
So yeah, with my rep for women in sport kind of thing, I did the Sportswoman of the Week. And I found that that's been a really successful way of engaging sort of female identifying athletes. And I'd like to move that into Sportsperson of the Week and really kind of highlight the achievements of all our members whenever their teammates kind of nominate them. And then as well with the Olympics, so the university tends to promote Team GB athletes, and I think it'd be really good if I work with the university to promote our own student athletes and I think that would be a really great way of engaging future sports members and freshers. So yeah, you've disappeared again. I don't know if it's my laptop.
No, that's
Okay.
fine. No, you were still fine for time, that's all. Okay, thank you both. Let's have another question. What should we throw at you this time? Some AU clubs have seen a decline in membership in recent years. How will you help clubs address this trend? And if we can come to, I lose track by this point in the section about who's first. Can you remember who's first next?
I think
I'll say Jenny.
Oh, okay.
You thought.
Oh no. So obviously, kind of supporting and promoting teams is going to be really, really important. So I want to get sort of all university members, not just ones in sports teams, to come down and watch our games. And I think if more students see kind of what's going on, what the community spirit's like, what the sort of teamwork is like, I think we'll see a big uptake in people joining. Obviously, promotion over the summer, I would continue the hashtag sort of AU August thing, promoting all the different teams. And yeah, just working with all the different teams to really promote them. I'd really want to promote non-books teams and sort of smaller teams that might not have the same potential presence at the sports fair and on Wednesday afternoon games. So I really want to highlight weekend and off-campus games as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Same question to Sian.
Agree with everything Jenny said. I think from my manifesto, the Reboost section kind of highlights this of a lot of the time financial issues come about, and that's what means a decline in membership. So we've been working hard for a money motion, we call it, to give more access to funds for the sports teams to help their members. So this motion will be going through our union council, the next union council. So it will be splitting up the funds that we already have to make them more clear and more accessible. So shout out to Sam Mills for doing that. And then on the resource hub, there's loads of stuff about fundraising and sponsorship that can kind of go into increasing financial support for members and their clubs. And then, we've got another announcement.
I was going to say, if you want another 5 minutes after the announcement, not 5 minutes, what am I saying? 5 seconds. You had 5 seconds and then it kicked in. So
I was going to say, I can talk for 5 minutes. I could talk for 5 minutes. Just a little one on what Phoebe mentioned earlier about the student credit scheme. I think that will really, really help students going into breaking down financial barriers.
Would either of you like to say any more on that?
All I was going to say was the student credit thing, so I'm okay.
Okay, that's great. Okay, let's have one more question. Oh,
sorry, Nicole.
Yeah. No, don't apologise.
Just for obviously looking at it in a wider sense of, I think maybe the decline could potentially be down to like the environment. So it would be looking at kind of enhancing that really positive environment and accessible, inclusive environment of the AU, which it clearly is. Like this year has been absolutely outstanding. Like I can't even give enough credit to the ADU teams for the work that they've been putting in this year to make the AU just such an incredible place. But looking at kind of working with LGBTQ plus inclusion and things like that, just to make people really feel safe and welcome in a sporting environment. I think that's something that we can really push next year as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's have one more question before we move on to closing statements. Okay. How will you motivate and support club execs throughout the year? Okay, how will you motivate and support club execs throughout the year. And if we can come to Sian first on that one.
Yeah, so obviously motivating and supporting clubs execs is one of the most important parts of this job. I have worked really closely with the presidents and the AU teams this year and supporting them. But for me, I think Committee Fest is going to be such a massive thing. As a union, we are putting on loads of sessions for committees to really engage with what's going on in the AU and in WHOSU and getting those early sessions that increase their knowledge of what the roles entail and what WHOSU is about, and our relationship with Hull Sport and our relationship with the university, like all these things that are really integral for the roles that they're going into. So I think that's the first really big support thing that we're going to be doing. And then obviously throughout the year, just constant promotion.
It's all right. When I do this, you have 5 seconds. You don't have to stop straight away. Are you okay, Sian?
Yes, I'm just being moved. So I will be here, but not here for a second.
Okay, we'll move on to Jenny's response to the question, and then hopefully you'll be able to rejoin us fine for your closing statement. Okay, Jenny.
Hello. Like what Sian said, the Committee Fest coming up in the next sort of month is going to be really important. But then providing sort of that same level of support throughout the year, checking in with committees, seeing how they're doing, and then promotion of sport over the summer is going to be really important. I think it's a lot easier for committees if they have big numbers, big intakes in Freshers Week. So promotion is going to be really important, and then supporting them with kind of the money side of things. So helping them look for sponsorships, fundraising, obviously the student credit thing, and then the money motion that Sam's putting through that would kind of look at ensuring that the Students' Union continues to support clubs as kind of the cost of sport rises with inflation. Yeah,
Okay.
the hand scale.
The scary hand. Oh, you've rejoined us, Sian. Excellent. So now we're just going to move on to closing statements. So both Sian and Jenny will give a closing statement of a minute to try and encourage you viewers to vote for them and help you to decide who you want to represent you next year as your president of sport. If we can come to Jenny first of all to give your closing statement, that'd be great.
So thanks first of all for everyone that's been watching. So I believe that I'm the best candidate for the role of president of sport, having been part of the AU exec this year and in Boat Club and Women's Rugby Union throughout my time at Hull. I have the experience needed for this role. After such a difficult year, I want to see sports return bigger and better the next year, which can only be done with a huge amount of support and promotion from the president of sport, which would hopefully be me. I've absolutely loved being a part of sports at Hull, and the highlights of my student life have been being a part of 2 teams and my role as representative for women in sport. I want to give this sporting experience to current and future students and improve it for them as well. Please vote me for number 1 for sport, tackling your issues and reaching for your goals. Thank you for your time and consideration, and please remember to vote.
Thank you very much, Jenny. That was a great closing statement. Just to hand over to Sian for your closing statement now.
Yeah, I believe you should re-elect me because I've lived and breathed sport at Hull for nearly 7 years now. And like a fine wine, I think I've only got better with age. So I really would hope that you would reconsider me. According to Vicky Dean, there's not been a 2-year standing president of sport for at least a decade. So I want to change that and provide consistent and stable leadership out of this pandemic. Sport has well and truly changed my university experience for the better. And I would love to be able to champion that positive experience for all students, current, new and graduated. And personally, I will not rest until that varsity trophy is back in our trophy case where it belongs.
Thank you. Another fantastic closing statement. Thank you to both Sian and Jenny. Thank you for dealing with, library announcements and kind of slightly glitchy internet at times. So thank you and well done. If one of them or both of them have convinced you, please do remember to vote when voting goes live at 9 o'clock tonight. Just an hour until you can cast your votes. Isn't that exciting? Just as a reminder, voting is open until Friday at 5. If you want to engage with either or both of them online, follow them on social media, read their manifestos. You've got all the links and information there that you need to be able to find out more. So thank you again to Sian and Jenny. We're just going to take a very short break now before we move on to our last section of tonight, where we will get to meet our 4 candidates for President of Education. So thank you, and we'll see you soon. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our question time. We're now in our final section. Last but not at all least, we save the best till last, but don't tell the other candidates I said that. We've now got our 4 candidates for President of Education. We've got Grace, Peace, Ovier and Callum. As in the other sections, each of them will have the opportunity to give an opening statement of up to a minute. Then we'll ask a few questions. Again, each of them will have up to a minute to respond to those questions. If you have any questions that you would like us to ask students, please pop a message in the chat function, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're watching on Facebook. We know that lots of people are going to be watching this on demand afterwards or watching it back, because our unfortunate timing of having question time just as the pub beer gardens have reopened and shops have reopened, it's not the best, is it? It's not the best, but that's the joy of being able to record it. It means that you'll be able to watch it back at a time that works for you, so that's fine. My name's Nicole. I am the Student Voice Manager here at Hull University Students' Union. And it's my pleasure to be running the elections and working with this fabulous set of people who would love to be your representative for education next year. So without further ado, we are going to open with the opening statements. If we could go with Grace, first of all, please.
Hi, I'm Grace. Having spent the past 3 years part of the Education Zone in various roles, and chair of the Education Zone this year, it has meant I have been part of the Union Development Zone as well. If I were elected, I would have a main focus on academic support and for all students, right from foundation students right through to PhD students. The past year has been a difficult one for students, and this has brought academic challenges for all students. If you were to elect me, I would be 100% dedicated in giving you the time and space you need to talk about any concerns that you may be having related to your studies.
Thank you, Grace. And now if we could move on to Peace for your opening statement.
Hi guys, I'm Peace and I'm running to be President of Education this year. So due to the pandemic, a lot of cracks have shown in our education system, and I'm running to bring a new level of care to our education. I have been Councillor of Scrutiny for the Diversity Zone, so I know how much COVID-19 has impacted particular groups at our university. I'm running to fix this and to help the wider student population by continuing self-certification, improving our personal supervision, opening up the library, and working to close the brain attainment gap, amongst other things. As your president, I will work hard to achieve these things for you. So vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Peace. If we can now move on to Ovier to give your opening statement.
Hi, my name is Ovier.
You're there now. You can start now.
Okay. Hi, my name is Ovier Enugu. Running for the President of Education, currently the postgraduate thought officer. So the backbone of my manifesto is focusing on value for money. We all know that the pandemic has done a lot to the educational system, and a lot of us have not really felt education as it used to be. And so I'll be working closely with university authorities to get value for money, and also provide financial assistance to students, those who have not met the merit gap, the merits based assistance, and also those who have not met other requirements for funding. I'll also be working with the university authority to make sure that we have a safe graduation ceremony, and engaging with students and making sure that student participation is top notch this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ovier. And now moving to Callum for your opening statement, please.
Hi guys, so I'm Callum Best and I'm running to be your President of Education simply because one of my passions is education. I've been worked as a classroom assistant whenever I left school in my own school for a year before going on to university, and I continue to work in a local school in Hull. I as a course rep, we've come across a lot of problems that it really could be better, and the reason I'm standing is because I want to make them better for you Obviously, I'm finished my time at university, so I want to affect the future. So vote for a better future and vote for Callum.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to our first question. Why do you think students should elect you to represent them? And we're going to come to Peace, first of all, please, to answer this one. You have up to a minute to answer this question.
So thank you for bringing me on. So I really want to work in education. I think that's my passion. So I think that students should elect me because I'll help them get the things that they need. I've talked to loads of students about what they want to happen on campus and off campus. And so the things I want to achieve is better support off campus in terms of education. I want to open up the library so that everyone has a space to work at. And I want to improve other things, for example, in terms of like LGBTQ people, having their pronouns on campus and stuff like that. I just want to improve education for everyone. And so I think that's the reason why you should vote for me.
Okay, thank you, Peace. We're going to move on to OVA next.
Thank you. So over the past few months, I've worked in various committees set up by university, ensuring, particularly the PGT review committee, ensuring that we improve the modules for PGT students, particularly those that come into the university system for the first time, international students, students from home students, also making sure that we improve the system of education. And I intend to extend this to all students in university, making sure that, I'm here for the academic life and, also infusing that with their other activities on campus. And I believe that I have the experience to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And next to Callum, the same question. Why do you think students should elect you to represent them?
I think that students should elect me to represent them because the student body's problems are always changing, and in order to tackle those problems, you need someone who's going to listen. And I like to think of myself as a very approachable person. I'm always there to chat to people, and I have no problem, talking to someone who, maybe is a little bit shy. That's something I've learned a lot, during my jobs in life. And if I'm voted in, I'm going to make sure that there's less barriers between the decision making that goes on that affects students and the students' voice themselves. So that's why I think I'm the best candidate for the job.
Thank you, Callum. And now to Grace to answer the same question.
So I already represent students, so this obviously shows that students believe in me. Over the past couple of months, I've been to the BAME Forum, the LGBT Forum, the Accessibility Forum, and the Student First Forum, which shows I am dedicated to supporting students whoever they are. And I have recently become one of the two students who sit on the Digital Assessment Strategy Working Group, which looks at assessments online.
Thank you. Thank you all for answering that question. We will move on to our next question. Each year we have at least 250 course reps. It kind of, veers between 250, 350. It depends on how active people are. And obviously it's a little bit challenging in a pandemic to recruit and train. Each year we have at least 250 course reps. How will you empower and motivate this group throughout the academic year? And if we could come to OVA first of all, please.
Thank you. So course reps are very important in our educational system currently. Course reps feedback to part-time officers, they feedback to lecturers, and they are amplifying the voices of the students in their classes. And we have to continue training them, keep engaging with them. Take, for example, the issue that happened with the library. Students had to voice out to their course reps, and the course reps in turn had to take the issues to the union, took it to the President of Education. And I believe I'll be in the right place if elected as president to ensure that I keep engaging with course reps, keep empowering them and motivating them, making sure that, I listen to them, making sure that whenever there are issues, I'm there to resolve it for them. And so I feel that in the presence of empowering course reps, you should be able to listen to them. You should be able to make sure that when issues arise, you'll be able to tackle it as soon as you can.
Thank you. And moving on to Callum next.
Yeah, how to cram all this into 1 minute is going to be difficult, but this goes back to what I've been saying about barriers. Course reps can do a lot of good. I've experienced that. We've had some big wins in my time, but there's also that this can't be done attitude that comes up sometimes, and it's almost like it can't be done, but we're not told why. So if you improve the transparency and accountability that is there in faculties and departments, and improve the miscommunication, there's an awful lot of miscommunication goes on sometimes. I think that'll improve how much success course reps can have. I definitely, as someone who's been there, I will work with the course reps, especially you'll always get the ones that are very prominent, the chairs of the committees, and they'll be the ones I will be liaising with to see who I can get to do what issues, to solve their problems, make it easier for them.
Okay, thank you. And same question to Grace, please.
Yeah, so part of my manifesto was actually about this. I would like to create a community with a course rep. So this will be done by like rep fest, social events, and also just like general meetings, like general catch-ups. And also at Welcome Fest, I would like to have a stall so people can approach it and like ask any questions they may have. And I think it would be good to do this faculty specific as well as university wide. Yeah, just gonna start my camera out.
Yeah, no worries. We'll ask the same question of Peace, and then if anyone wants to come back and say anything else on this question, you're very welcome to. So yeah, same question to Peace.
Thank you. So I know that a lot of work has gone on in improving the course reps and empowering them. I think what needs to happen is I think there needs to be more training, and in terms of that also like meeting up with the students a lot more. Now, of course, it's been COVID, so we've not been able to meet, but I feel like we should have maybe focus groups, stuff like that, to like talk to students. And then as well as that, I want to work closely with the course reps. I want them to be like, in the same way you have the AU, I want them to be empowered to speak as much, every single one of them. So yeah, I think that's what I want to do. And yeah, at the start of the semester, I want them to be able to be empowered to talk to all the students on their courses, and at the end, report back what we need to do better.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for answering that question. Appreciate it. It's quite a challenging one, how you're going to empower hundreds of volunteers throughout next year. Well done for sorting out your camera, Grace. Did you have something else you wanted to say? Because I appreciate that was a little bit...
I just wanted to say that I would empower our reps by doing a spotlighting scheme that is in place, like on YouTube. There's videos on that.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody else want to say anything else on this question at all? Peace?
Hi, yeah, sorry, I forgot to say something as well. I really think there should be more transparency as well about what's going on, because I know there's a lot of miscommunication and like broken barriers between course rep students and the senior team. So if we can work to improve that relationship, that's something that I think will also help to empower and motivate these people.
Thank you. I saw Callum had his hand up as well. If you'd like to come back in.
Yeah, I have to be careful because I don't want to take up too much time. But this is something I'm really passionate about. Having been the course rep this year and the amount of times you met with a lot of sympathy because the people are great. Like the people in the departments and faculties are great. It is more the sort of institution, sort of bureaucracy, all those sort of populist words, But the other thing is that sometimes there's not enough course reps. You don't. One of the things we found was within programs. So in politics, we had course reps for politics, international relations, BPLS, but no for war studies. So you can't represent a program if you don't have the course reps there. And one thing I found really helped. This was in my second year. I went into a lecture and did a big shout out. Look, this is what being a course rep's like. I think as president of education, if I had the time, I would definitely try and either do that myself or get the course reps to do that as well, because that boosted our numbers a lot. We got a lot more numbers from doing that. And I think without those numbers, you can't really represent.
Okay, thank you. Great. Ovier, did you want to say any more words on this question? Yeah.
Yeah, so the current SSF forum being held, students, and I think that's currently working fine. The challenge we have had with course reps is actually recruiting course reps, and most of the time, recruiting course reps comes 3 months into the trimester. And I think in the process of empowering and motivating them, as president of education, I tend to focus generally on finding ways to recruit more course reps into the system, and then empowering them from ground up, motivating them and making sure that the feedback system works perfectly.
Thank you. It's really evident from all of your answers that you're all really passionate about this and you really want to make it, kind of improve and build on all of the good work that's been done before. Let's move on to our next question now. As the President of Education, what ideas do you have to reduce awarding gaps at the university? And we will come to Callum first with this one. Okay.
Yeah, look, this is a really difficult question because, I'm probably speaking from a place of privilege. So the best thing that I can do personally, from my own experience, is listen. And that's something I really do place to do. It's a key central part of my manifesto is I'm listen. I've always been a listener, and I will make sure that students know just how and when they can contact not just me, but the rest of the president team so that they can get their voices heard. And I will be a champion of the student's voice. And I will listen to them, listen to how they think it should be solved, and act on it.
Thank you, Callum. Same question to Grace, please.
Yeah, so I would talk to my minority groups who wouldn't normally be approached by students, so like Muslims, Sikhs, like people of different religions, like gender identities. And I would also work alongside the President of Inclusivity and Diversity to reduce this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And over to Peace with the same question.
Thank you so much for letting me talk about this because this is really important for my manifesto. So I've been part of these awarding groups from the beginning. So in my first year, I was part of the group of people who were like the first to go to university, and then secondly, about the big awarding gap. So I think what I think we should do is have more focus groups in which we talk to people who are in these categories, because I feel like there's a lack of communication between students and senior team. So if we're able to have focus groups on these issues, we can talk to them and ask them what are the issues that they're really facing, so that we can then use what they say to change what's going on for them. So for example, if it's to do with the library opening hours, then we can fix that for them. Or if it's to do with not having textbooks and stuff like that, we can fix that for them. But I think it's very important that we talk to the people that are falling behind due to the awarding gaps.
Thank you. And over to OVA with the same question, please.
Thank you. So I particularly agree with what Peace has said. I think the main issues with minority groups, it's basically encouraging them to come forward whenever they have any issues. They should, be able to come forward and encouraging them to speak out whenever there are any issues that are affecting them. So we need to particularly focus. So, the focus groups is something that would, go a long way in making sure that they are heard and their whatever they have is being brought to the front burners and they are treated as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Did anybody want to say any more words on this subject? Peace.
Sorry, I'm really passionate about this. As a person who has been part of those groups, for example, the BAME awarding gap, and for example, people who have just gone to university for the first time in their families, I think I will be a person that people can see that they can do it and they can talk to me because I am them as well. So yeah.
Thank you. And please don't apologise for being passionate about this. That's a fantastic quality to have. There's no sorries need to be said on this screen at all. Did anyone else want to say anything else on this particular issue? No? Okay, let's move on to our next question. Leadership skills are essential skills for this role. How will you show leadership to your zone and the wider student body? For anybody who's watching at home who isn't aware of what the zone means, the education zone is made up of the elected and appointed part-time officers. There's a whole 13 roles in the education zone. So being a leader of those volunteers is a significant part of the role of a president of education. So leadership skills are essential skills for this role. How will you show leadership to your zone and the wider student body? And if we can come to Grace, first of all, with that question, please.
Yeah, as chair of the education zone, I've been able to see like what other members of the zone has done, like campaign wise for like Simi and the current president of education focused a lot on like opening more floors of the library and extending the hours. But I feel there should be more awareness of what the zone actually does to students. So maybe there could be like open meetings, just as there are for other issues. And again, this could be on a faculty level as well.
Okay, thank you for that. And now to Peace with the same question.
So I think leadership skills are really important. And so I think one thing that needs to like change in terms of like education is I want to be approachable to everyone. I want to be able to meet all types of students and my zone as much as possible. So if that means I meet up with different groups of people, then I will do that. I'll do everything that I can. Of course, so for example, I'll meet up online and in person if possible. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, Peace. Same question to OVA.
So I've seen that, you know, the president of education is always fully booked. Is always fully booked. But you know, the important thing is to make sure that you know you create an enabling environment for part-time students, for part-time officers to be able to meet with you, for class reps to be able to meet with you, you know, for all members of the zone to be able to meet with you, even those that are outside the zone, those in the development zone and the activities. So you should be open to listen to everybody. And you know, parts of the leadership skills that you should show is, you know, to bring everybody together, let them know, you know, what you can do for them, let them know how you can help, you know, point them in the right direction to make sure that you know the issues that are brought to you, you know, will be resolved.
Thank you. Sorry, I just temporarily couldn't find the unmute button for myself, which is really clever. Same question to Callum.
Yeah, look, for me, when you're talking about a leader, a leader has to be two things. You could break it down into many more, but I think two things stand clear above the rest. A leader first has to be understanding. And I've been on the other side of it. So I've been a student. We all have, obviously. And I will definitely understand, you know, with the problems that people have when they're, you know, struggling with things. And the other thing a leader has to do is a leader has to lead from the front. They have to work hard. And if elected, that is something I am going to do. I am going to be relentless in my drive to make this university a better place for students. So if you want to know why I'm going to be a good leader, if elected, I'm going to understand and I'm going to lead from the front.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Does anybody want to say anything additional on that particular question? Yeah, Peace?
Sorry, this is a quick point. I know you said something, but I also want to be really honest with you guys about what's going on, because I think that's something that's not really been happening. So if I'm able to be honest and tell you guys, for example, like course reps, what's going on, then you know they can talk to students that are in the courses and stuff.
Thank you. Anybody else? Callum?
I honestly, I just want to back up what Pace said there, because it's so important. Transparency is so important, because I just don't know how we can expect students and volunteers and everybody to make an effective difference without knowing what's going on, because if they don't know what's going on, they don't know how to change it. So if elected, I'll make sure that there's less barriers between that, so that they know what's going on, and that way they can work much better.
Okay, thank you. Grace, OVA, did either of you want to say anything additional here? No? Okay, let's go to one more question before we go to closing statements. Representing students' academic interests is a big and varied responsibility. What will you do to ensure you represent all students' academic interests? I'll repeat that because it's quite a lengthy, wordy one again. Representing students' academic interests is a big and varied responsibility. What will you do to ensure you represent all students' academic interests? And if we can come to Peace first with that one, please.
Hi, yeah, so you are right. It's a very big responsibility, but I think I'm the person to take that on. I think what I want to do is obviously work with the societies, the academic societies, because I think that's been left out a lot. I want to also work with the course reps and the module reps. I want to work with everybody, and I want to make sure that everyone knows that they can reach out to me, but I'll also reach out to them, and so no one is left out. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And the same question to OVA.
Thank you. So, representing the interests of students is one of the cardinal points of our manifesto. Making sure that students' interests are represented, whether you're a foundation student, you're a part-time student, you're an undergrad, or you're a postgrad, making sure that your interest is represented, communicating with the students, also communicating with course reps, making sure that, there's an interface between what the students want and, how you can now reach the level where the faculties and departments come into play, having an interlocked relationship, and ensuring that there's a smooth feedback system. That has helped since I came in. When there were issues and when we had to resolve them, we had to make sure that all parts of the chain were all covered, and everybody knew what to do and everybody knew where to go, which is very important, because a lot of students don't know where to go to resolve issues. And I think I'm the right person to bring that into play, making sure that people know where to get advice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the same question to Callum.
Yeah, this goes back to what I've been sort of trying to say throughout this session, is that we have to listen to students. You can't even begin to do a job that involves representing people if you're not listening to them. So it goes back to what I've been saying about making sure we're visible. I will be a very visible president of education. I will be approachable. You'll know how you can contact me, and that's the best way, in my opinion, to represent all students' academic interests, because otherwise, how else can you do it? It is a big responsibility.
Okay, thank you. And to Grace now.
I would look at the societies which are academic already, and then I would reach out to the subjects which aren't there and see if there's a reason why they aren't a society yet, or whether they just don't want to be. So I would work alongside the president of activities to work on this.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody want to say anything else on this question before we move to closing statements? Heath.
Sorry, I forgot one important part that I wanted to speak about as well. I think we also need to look at faculties as well. So how can we represent students through the faculties? So maybe what we can do is use the module feedback to talk about what we can improve in the faculties as well. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay, in that case, we will now move to closing statements. So each of you are invited to make a closing statement of up to a minute. We're going to start with OVA. So over to you to encourage people, convince people, why should they vote for you as their President of Education next year?
Thank you. So over the past few months that have represented postgraduate students, I've had the privilege to talk to students from, all over the world, students in hall, I have colleagues that are still in China to now. I have colleagues in France, and, I've been able to amplify their voice, make sure that, all their grievances have been channeled to the right place to make sure that we resolve their issues. How to talk to model leaders, how to talk to cost reps. The important thing as a president of education is to be able to listen to people, to be able to take their grievances and make sure that they're channeled to the right direction. And I think that with the experience I've gathered so far, I think I'll do a very brilliant job as the president of education. Making sure that students from all faculties, from departments, from wherever you come from, I'm very sure that I'll be able to take on whatever issues you have. And with the pandemic and all that, we are trying to transition into campus life, and I'm sure I'll
Thank
be able to
you.
do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, OVA. We're going to move on to Callum now. So Callum, convince the voters, why should they vote for you as their President of Education?
Okay, so as we've talked about a lot of subjects here today, and they're all very important issues, and to go over them again would take up way too much time. So I'm going to simply say, look, if you're looking for a president of education that is going to relentlessly devote himself to this job and devote himself to you, I think you should vote for me. I'm going to make sure there's more transparency, more accountability, and less barriers between students and decision making. I'm very sorry if you haven't been able to understand me tonight. Sometimes I talk a bit fast, and that makes my accent bad. But I promise that if elected, I will understand you. I will be there for you. So vote for the best.
Thank you, Callum. And can I just reassure you, I've been able to understand you perfectly, so don't worry about that. Right, to Grace now. Convince the voters, why should they vote for you as their next year's President of Education?
If I had had the experience of being a course rep, deputy faculty rep, councillor for scrutiny, and chair of the education zone, I honestly don't think I would have had the ability or commitment to put myself forward for this role. But having the other part-time officers and the current president team around me has allowed me to become a better version of myself. Please vote for me as someone who will continue to put students first and who will be the echo of student voices here at Hull. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Okay, and now over to you, Peace. Convince the voters, why should they vote for you as their next President of Education?
Oh, wow. Well, thank you for listening to what I have to say. I hope you can see that I am passionate and I'm ready to work hard for what you want to happen. I want to improve our educational experience here at Hull. So I'll listen to you and I'll do to the best of my ability what you guys want to happen in education. So thank you. And vote for me for peace of mind.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, all of you, for giving up your Monday evening. I appreciate lots of your friends are sitting in beer gardens now, having lots of fun, and you're putting yourself out there wanting to represent all of your peers next year. So thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who has watched. As a reminder, voting opens in 20 minutes time. 9 p.m. tonight, voting will open. Visit www.hulluniunion.com/vote now, and you will be able to cast your vote for your next year's President of Education, President of the Students' Union, President of Activities, President of Sport, and President of Inclusivity and Diversity. But if you haven't made up your mind yet, you can watch back any of these debates and question time sections again. You can engage with any of our candidates online. Check out their manifestos. They're all on our website. There's links on social media. You'll be able to follow them. Ask them questions if you want to know more. If something that they've said has whetted your appetite and you think, actually, there's something else that I want to know here, please ask them. They'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Voting is open till Friday. So if you haven't made your mind up yet, you've got plenty of time, but don't leave it too late because it will close bang on 5 o'clock on Friday. As I said at the start of this event, all campaigning is digital this year. That's to ensure that our candidates and you as voters are kept safe from this horrible pandemic that thankfully we're starting to come out of. But, you know, to ensure that everything is safe, it is digital only. So you won't see the posters, you won't see the flyers, they won't be doing giveaways and stalls and, you know, crazy fun stuff all across campus as under normal circumstances, but they'll still be having lots of fun on social media, and they're really happy to talk and to listen to you. I think our 4 President of Education candidates are fantastic. They're clearly really passionate about representing you academically next year. So have a think, have a look, and cast your vote once voting opens. And just as a reminder, remember, the way that our voting works, you can vote for your number 1, but you can also vote for your number 2, your number 3, and your number 4 in this race. So you don't have to pick one person. If you think one person has pipped the other one to the post, vote for your number 2 and your number 3, etc. So, you know, just have a really good think, have a really good look. And thank you to everybody. Big, massive round of applause to all of our candidates tonight for taking part. Thank you to Torch TV in the background for making this all happen, for producing it, because if I'd been on my own, I don't think we would have been able to see or hear anything going on. So thank you to Aidan and his team. Thank you also to Jack from our marketing team for making this happen as well. Spread the word. If you've watched this and found it interesting, share it with your friends. And candidates, share it with your campaign team members, share it with the voters. You know, encourage people to watch again and find out what you've got to say and how you're answering their questions. If you have questions that haven't had the chance to be asked tonight, please pop them in the chat. We will make sure all the questions get to candidates and they'll be able to answer you on social media. But I think it leaves me to say nothing but we have a whole 17 minutes until voting opens. It all gets super exciting now. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you to all our candidates again. Take care. Anyone who has any questions about elections at all, please drop us a line at elections@hull.ac.uk. Me and my colleague Elise will be more than happy to answer any questions or queries you have about elections. So take care and good night.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks so much. See you later.